What have you learned lately that
Yeah.
has been a game changer in solving what problem?
If an AI can do this portion of your job, then it's no longer a great use of your time and energy. That used to take somebody 2 hours to write, and then it would
Mm.
take another person half an hour to go through and edit it. And we can now get ChatGPT to do that in seconds, and it's very accurate.
I am here with Mike Desjardins, which is a beautiful name. We've just been talking about it, who's joining us on our customer showcase because you've been such a long-term customer of ours, Mike. We just felt it was time to meet you, and thank you so much for agreeing to join our show.
It's such a pleasure to be here. Your product literally changed my working life and has actually brought joy to the people that book meetings with me. And I never knew that that was going to be an outcome.
Wow, that is absolutely amazing. I want to dive into more of that. But first of all, why don't you tell us a little bit more about what you do, Mike?
So I have a business called Virtus. Our website's virtusinc.com. And we do leadership development for medium to large enterprise companies all across North America.
What problem have you fallen in love with, Mike? What's the thing that motivates you and has kept you going for all this time?
If you change all of the behaviors and mindset of the leaders of an organization, you've completely changed the strategic direction and the culture of the organization. They'll always say, we've got a great strategy and we've got a great culture, so don't mess that up. And then our response is, but we're okay to go change the behaviors and the mindsets of everyone who works here that's in leadership. Oh, yeah, that's fine. That's what we're hiring you to do. Like, okay. Of course, what we end up doing is transforming the company as a result of that.
How are you translating that into that kind of cultural change that you described?
The work was really understanding like what my values are and then how do I express those values in building a company because I wanted to build a great life and also build a great company at the same time and build a great culture. And before I was building a great company and I wasn't building a great life that wasn't fitting my core values. And so with leaders, we want them to understand what they value and understand how they show up in the world. And so we'll develop them individually through coaching.
What keeps you up at night, Mike, when you're in your business over 24 years? You've obviously seen some ups and downs. You're a seasoned
Yeah.
operator, but what keeps you up at night?
I think watching the economies in the various places that we work, the just overall economic recovery from COVID has been actually different between the US and Canada. So I look at a lot of the macro issues. I think the other thing is, we jumped on ChatGPT and AI the moment it came out and started figuring out how to integrate it into the business. And so we spend a lot of time looking at the trends on how do adults want to learn? How do leaders, like what kind of time do they have? Like, are they learning on their phone? Do they want to learn virtually? Do they want to learn in person? What are the types of things like resilience, mental health? So one of the things that we realized as we were going through the work of justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, we started looking at the research materials that we use, the books that are written in business books, and
Mm,
they are predominantly written
white
by
men.
white men and
Mm.
secondarily written by white women. And so as we looked at all of the materials and we said, but what's the population of people? So we started looking at the weighting and we said, well, let's actually weight to the diversity we actually see. And we listed every resource, every research paper, every book, every TED talk, every anything we'd ever use. We put into a giant spreadsheet and we tagged it with whether or not that person identified as part of the LGBTQ, BIPOC, or Caucasian, male, female, non-binary. Boom, we listed all of it out and we said, okay, we're not going to go based on how Amazon and other organizations are showing us what the most popular books are. We're going to go based on having a set of resources which honors the diversity that society actually has. And so our resource list is actually matched to the diversity of society, not to the bestseller list.
If you could start from scratch, well, 24 years ago, if you could
Yeah.
do it again, what would you do differently?
I acquired another company in July. And through that acquisition process, the CEO of the other company was like, how have you built such a successful business across North America? You have no marketing. Like it's all been repeat and referral. Like we do a good job. We're there for a long time. They introduce their friends, and that's actually helped us grow. And she said, we really have to change that. So launched a podcast for me called The Mike Method on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And then started a newsletter and put an entire marketing platform in, got our social ramped up. So if I was to go back, I would have put a much heavier weight in marketing.
My next question is, what have you learned lately that
Yeah.
has been a game changer in solving what problem?
If an AI can do this portion of your job, then it's no longer a great use of your time and energy.
Mhm.
If it can edit for you, then get a what we call a kick-ass first draft done and put it into ChatGPT. If it can do the first draft and you can edit it, and that takes like 5% of the time, then do that. And so we found things like we record all of our client needs assessments calls in a product called Fathom.video, and it transcribes everything. We can take that entire transcription and load it into ChatGPT along with any notes that we have and load all that in and say, create a situational appraisal, top three strategic objectives. And so that gives us the client, we were able to give them back, is this what you want us to help you with? And they're like, that's it. That used to take somebody 2 hours to write, and then it would
Mm.
take another person half an hour to go through and edit it. And we can now get ChatGPT to do that in seconds, and it's very accurate. And so we do a lot of communication planning for our clients because we run these large programs and there's communication going out all the time. And you can imagine that, the ChatGPT 4.0, the new version is unbelievable at doing things like that. So really, I've looked at the team and I've said, find every way possible to use it as a thought partner, a brainstorming partner. The voice version of ChatGPT, just chatting back and forth, the newest version is like having the smartest best friend you can imagine who's in your space, who's a peer sitting beside you having a conversation. So I'm like, use it as much as you can because I would love for the team to be spending more time with our clients face to face, to be having white space to sit back and work on their wellness, to be thinking creatively about the future of the business. And if ChatGPT allows them to have that space, then that benefits them, it benefits the company, and it definitely benefits the clients and the leaders that we work with.
What tools did you start working with that you've been really, really
Oh, sure.
relying on? And then what
Yes,
tools
of
also
course.
would you recommend?
So we went virtual in 2009. And back then it was Skype and Yammer and me.com, which became iCloud. Um, there were no tools. It was like duct taping together things. We then migrated over to Zoom and Slack, and we use Monday.com for all of our project management. I would say those are the three main software packages. We have things like Thinkific as an LMS. We use a bunch of software to create really cool e-learning and videos. We use Seven Labs to do all of our AI video production and all that kind of stuff. So there are some very specialized packages, but I would say at the core of running the business is Zoom, Slack, and Monday.com.
So we've talked about all the tools that you really like and that you rely
Yeah,
on. Any tools that you use, Mike, that you secretly don't like that you wish you could get rid of?
I have WhatsApp. So WhatsApp is terrible, and so is Instagram for one very specific reason. I am in a lot of very large groups on WhatsApp that have to do with EO and other organizations I belong to. There'll be times where there's 240 messages that I'm behind. If I go to the top of that message list and I'm scrolling down and I find a message and it's a needs and leads thing, so it's that people need help and I can help, I will reply to that person. Well, it will then drop my reply to the very bottom and bring me to the very bottom of the message list.
Talk to me a little bit more about your referral and the way you've grown because you weren't doing any marketing. So the referral stuff, is that something that you're still relying on majority for your growth now? Do you obviously have very long retention for your customers? So is your model basically to keep them, strap them in and then just years go by? And then how often do you need to onboard new customers?
We're growing and scaling the organization. So we are actively doing both those things. And again, as I said to you, like our clients are staying out of their own choice, right? So we each year are having to then think about the program for what's coming up. Some of the programs take like, 3 to 5 years to deliver. Others are an annual program and we keep retuning, refining, taking the metrics and then making them better. Our growth strategy now is very based on marketing and lead gen. And we work with a wonderful company here in Vancouver called Leadosaurus. And they are, Martin Addy is the CEO, great guy. He's an EO member here in Vancouver as well. And what they do is they help us with very targeted custom emails that are sent to the exact size client, to the perfect person in the perfect role in our potential client. And we send emails like that all month, like every day there's emails going out like that. And we have probably about a 1.7% response rate to those emails, which will mean that we will meet with somewhere between 20 and 30 prospective new clients per month because about 80% of the
Mhm.
people that reply actually book a meeting with us.
Mhm.
And they have a distinct need in that moment for exactly what we do. They have a budget, they're in our world, they understand what we do. So that has been a wonderful tool that we use to help to support our growth. And people move around. So they might leave the company we're working with now and go get a job at a new company. And then as soon as they get there, they call us and they're like, hey, I'm over at
We
this
need
new
you.
company. Yeah, we need your help. And we had such a great relationship together in this other work we did at my past company. Let's get the band back together.
What about the alternative though, the opposite? What happens
Yeah.
if you have had to fire a customer? If you had any clients that you've just sort of seen as not being suitable, people that you're not going to
Yeah.
benefit from your service?
Yeah. It happens about once every 5 years,
Mm.
where it hasn't happened in a long time because we've gotten really good at figuring that out before we onboard them. And when it does happen, it's typically because someone on the senior team, usually the CEO, is struggles with their level of emotional intelligence. And so we
Mm.
run into this place where the culture is driven from the top. The leadership development and HR team want a different culture. And we now are, there's two
Mm.
countercultures, the founder culture and then the culture of the organization is trying to develop and they're in conflict with each other. And we're in the middle. And man, that is not a fun place for us to be. So when we're in that position, it's very, very difficult for us to do the work that we do. And that thankfully is so rare that that occurs. So
Mm.
that's what it looks
Mm.
like when it occurs.
This is a quick fire round where you just have to tell me what you would prefer. Would you
So
rather throw out your phone or your laptop?
laptop.
Would you rather get a new customer or double your sales to an existing customer?
Oh, always double the sales to an existing customer because the relationships our customers are awesome. They're so, yeah, we have lovely relationships. So I'd rather do that.
Would you rather speak at a huge conference or make a new sale?
Both are interesting for different reasons. Make a new sale because it means a relationship. A conference is me putting things out into the world, and that may create relationships in the future. But we're a group of people driven by long-term trusted relationships. So I'd take the relationship.
Would you rather work with a team of experts or passionate learners?
I've chosen to hire people that have both of those things. What I have learned is that passionate learners are great in more junior roles. But when you're trying to scale a company, you need to have experts who are also passionate learners because otherwise it puts too much pressure on the expertise coming from the top. And Steve Jobs has a wonderful quote where he says, you don't hire smart people to tell them what to do. You hire smart people so they'll tell you what to do. And I fundamentally believe that's the right choice.
Would you rather be known for product quality or customer service?
It's so baked in our culture that those are the two most important things that we do because the product goes to the actual leaders, but our client are not the actual leader. Our client are the people we work with to create it. So for these people, it's the customer service. For these people, it's the product. So depending on who you're talking about, the answer is yes, but that's the only way I can answer that question.
You have to do both. You have to be really good.
You can't put a crappy thing out to the leaders and be lovely to be in relationship with. You can't be right. That doesn't work. You can't be terrible to be in relationship with these people and producing great work with the leaders because these are the people that we're talking to build it. We're in partnership with. They're the ones that are scheduling and helping us make sure those leaders are there and helping us understand the company. Like you have to do both of those things really well, or you can't be in our business, full stop. And there are
I
people
couldn't.
that are in our business that don't do those things well, and we steal their business all the time. And that's the exact feedback that we get from the people when they hire us.
I really appreciate your answers, Mike. Thank you so much indeed. I could talk to you all day about your wisdom. So thank you so much for sharing it with us.
It is honestly, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate you asking these questions and being in conversation today.